Hello to everyone out there watching, and welcome to the start of the GT3 World Series. The first round of the championship would take the teams to the Netherlands, where the 87 Viper would go on to take pole position in qualifying, followed by the number 64 GT lining up alongside it on the front row. As the safety car pulls in, it is now just a matter of moments before the lights will go green, and the 87 Viper will lead the field as the lights go green, and immediately everyone tries to get past everyone. GT3 battles at its best. Still the 87 leading out of the first corner, but everything not as clean down the pack as a few corners later we see the number 6 Sport GT making move up the 91 Viper. A little bit of contact, but everything within sporting behavior. A few corners later, the 93 has apparently decided to shed some weight, and as has the number 50 after a collision with the number 8 BMW, which then gets turned by one of the Aston Martins, very high speed. Somehow manages to avoid the wall, but that was a very close call there. And yeah, quite a few cars decided for some reason to shed weight in the early stages of this race. Not all of them had the same brilliant idea, as we see the number 32 BMW of the Jackson Racing stable going up the inside, the number 60 Pagaton Team Ford GT into second place as we come to end the first lap. Second lap, sorry. As the race did. Well, it was a bit of a close quarter combat as we see one of the Vipers going up the inside of the 40 Mercedes. Nothing spared there. And again, the 32 and the 60 going out. This time the 60 overtaking around the outside. A brave move there by the number 60. And we see one of the traits that this race would have was everywhere you look, you would see many cars together fighting for positions, as is the case here in the 95 Ferrari tries to overtake the 27 Porsche, the only Porsche in the field. The All-Star Racing team doesn't quite get the job done though, because of the way the circuit is laid out. Everywhere is an opportunity to overtake and an opportunity to re-overtake. Some people were more successful in their overtakes, as demonstrated by the number 10 Aston Martin from the Pro Speed stable. A bit of contact between the number 1 Audi and the number 40 Mercedes as well. And the Aston Martin proceeds to make mincemeat of both of those as well. Brilliant piece of driving there, 3 positions in a matter of seconds. Definitely a sign that the Aston Martin teams are on the move. And yeah, this is how close the racing was. You can't really tell if they're actually touching or if it's just very close here. The number 32 BMW managed to catch up to the leader. The 87 Viper still doesn't quite get the overtaking done here in lap 7. But yes, there, one mistake from the leading Viper, and the number 32 will be through. All looks nice and tidy though. Its teammate, the number 32's teammate, the 79 car, has come up with another clever solution of how to save weight. They have decided to improve engine cooling, and apparently it's also giving it more horsepower, as you see it here going up first up the inside of the 60, and then targets the Nameless Motorsports number 13 Ford GT. And a clean move up the inside, and that's the job done. It is really that simple, if you can get it done. However, the Nameless Motorsports car wasn't quite satisfied with that, and on the very next lap decides that it has had its time in glorious 3rd place. Thus the 79 falls back a little. But the racing continues. We're only at this point 11 laps in, about 1/4 of the race distance. Plenty of racing still to come. As we see here, that's one of the bikers, that's the 91, battling the 77 Ford GT, the Green Beast Motorsports entry. And that just goes to show these cars can be very close matched under certain circumstances. As the Viper now tries to get past the 76, another Viper. Also in the shot, the number 2 Mercedes and the number 3 McLaren with magic downforce on the rear. It can lose its rear spoiler and nothing seems to happen in the downforce department. Interesting decision. I'm not sure how that works, but apparently the McLaren mechanics can do magic. That's the only reasonable conclusion I can think of. The 79 manages to catch up to its teammate, or the teammate falls back enough for the 79 to eventually try to mount an overtake. Doesn't quite get it done, but great spirit from the team owners to let the cars have at it. It is the first round after all, and points are as important now as they are at the end of the series. And there is the overtake. That is the extra cooling horsepower of the 79 making all of its worth. And at the other end of the scale, the 95 Ferrari discovered that they had a slight problem. They may have slightly run the first few laps of the race with only 3 cylinders. And then they went into the pits and got that problem fixed somehow, but it took them back about half an hour. Until they then discovered that the Ferrari was actually front-wheel drive. And that they were now about 20 days behind the rest of the field. So it's not really been an optimal season start, but they're hopeful that it can only go better from here on out. And well, let's be honest, it can only go better than what has been happening so far. Lap 16 sees the lap 24, excuse me, sees the 87 Viper pull in for the mandatory pit stop, runs out of tires, and just a lap later we see the 79 and the number 3 as well pulling into the pits, leaving only the number 13 of the top contenders having yet to do their pit stops. But that happens on the very next lap. The question is now, are they going to be ahead of the 87? And it looks like they are. So the 87 Viper has been dealt with by pitting at a time with less crowded in the pit, less other cars to take care of. And that is the thing, strategy is key, but the number 3 McLaren was slightly faster, had a slightly better pit stop, but it didn't really matter too much. A few laps later, the Ford had caught up, and on the next lap, it was passed. The speed of the Ford GT on these new tires is absolutely incredible, even though we are now about 34 laps into the race. Eventually the McLaren will fall back a little behind the 87, and the leader would be the 79 car. As the battle for second place continues between the number 13 and the 87. 87 takes second place for the moment, but there are still quite a few laps to go in this race. Everything could happen at this point. Speaking of a little further down the order, some people who have never really been up to pace in qualifying, the Corvettes, was now sort of just outside the top 20. Especially the 63, but perhaps even more impressively, the Nissan GT-R, predicted to be one of the slowest cars, was actually running in the higher midfield. very impressive. Granted, it did get a weight reduction prior to the season start, but nevertheless, to be as competitive as the Nissan is, I don't think even the team themselves have expected that. Eventually, the time comes where the 79 car starts to... The BMW Z4 is known for not being particularly friendly to its tires. And inevitably, the Ford GT, which appears to be extremely good at its tires, well, everything has to come to an end. And that is the time where the 79 was out of 13. Coming to an end right there. Now onto the final couple of laps. This is 5 laps to go. And that's the number 13 car back into the lead. And from that point, they pretty much never looked back. You can see them building the lead ever so slightly as everyone else is fighting. 79 here commits a fatal error. Goes way too deep and is not at all set up for the next corner, which means number 3 is faster, better positioned, and with a bit of a nudge from the 60 as well, that sees the 79 fall a few positions back. And the battle still continued as we were on the final lap. The 87 passes the number 3 on the final lap, but even more drama to come as the number 6 nudges the 50, definitely the worst start of the season, and then pushes it wide to the point where it's in the path of the 63 Corvette, and that's a monumental smash. Somehow, and I still haven't quite figured out how, both cars manages to go through to the end, and the winner of the first round is going to be the number 13 of Nameless Motorsports, followed by the 87, the 3, and the 60. The rest of the results can be seen on the championship standings, which will be made available shortly after this video has been uploaded. But apart from that, that is my job done at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. So I will see you at the next race.